Hello, everybody. What's going on? Going to do a little vocabulary study today. In a little while, I'm going to be putting up a live lesson. I think we'll just do it live about the Mexican American War. And I wouldn't cover a topic like that because it's not considered a major American war. But guess what? If you're going to take the US citizenship test, there is at least one question on there about the Mexican American War. So I thought, let's just do a short live lesson on it. So, in case anybody takes that, they will see that question and then they could probably do pretty well with it. Or maybe there are just some people who watch this channel, they want to learn English, but they also like to learn a little bit about history. But before we get to the live lesson, what I would like to do is go over some of the vocabulary words that I think could be a little tricky for you. So you can watch this before the live lesson, and then you'll understand the article that I read from even better. So I'm making this video first. The live lesson might not be available, but if it is, like check down in the description and there might be a link to that. So let's take a look at some of these vocabulary words. And I also have some example sentences with these words. So the first one I thought might be a little bit tricky. You can see it right there. It's independence. And the definition is getting freedom, being able to do what you want. A lot of teenagers probably want to gain independence from their parents. But in the United States, every year, the United States celebrates Independence Day on July 4th. You sometimes might hear that called 4th of July. And that is the celebration of when the United States declared its independence from Great Britain and the US became a country. The next one, get rid of that, it's disputes. And it's just another way to have, like to say, to have an argument with somebody. So you can see this picture here. Those two people clearly look like they're having a dispute. Oh, one thing, if you are taking the citizenship test, you might, that document right there, that picture, I hope my cursor is showing up on it right there. That is the Declaration of Independence. So there's actually a piece of paper that the colonists, that's what the United States people who lived there were called before it became the United States. They were the 13 colonies. So that piece of paper was actually sent to the British king at the time. But let's talk about disputes here. And this is the example sentence. Rachel often has disputes or arguments with her little brother. They never get along. There's a English phrasal verb right there. If you get along with someone, it means you are like you're cool with them. It's hard to say get along without using the phrasal verb in that definition. You work well with them. You're friendly with them. So brothers and sisters often don't get along, unfortunately. I'm pretty lucky that mine do. So the next one here is recognize. Recognize. And you can see this is to identify someone or something seen before. So when you see recognize, look at the first part there. It's re. And anytime you see that at the beginning of a word in English, think again. So let's say you post something on your Facebook or you post something on your Instagram, then you take it down and then you post it again. You can say you reposted it. Maybe you read something over and you didn't quite understand it, so you could reread it. So it means again. And it had been years since I've seen my friend. I didn't even recognize her. So for you to recognize something, you have to have seen it before. And then when you see it again, you remember it. But hear that remember? Re. It's at the beginning of that word, re, to mean again, but it's not like you member it again. Yeah. So that one doesn't work. For every rule we have in English, it's always broken eventually. The next one here is annex. Annex. So when we are talking about the Mexican American War, we're going to talk about it as in like add. So to add or attach or to take over a piece of land. And this is the sentence that will work. The United States annexed parts of Texas. So when you see annexed, it means like an addition. So the United States had land before, but then it like took over part of the land that belonged to guess who? In the Mexican American War? Yeah. The US pretty much just like took over or told Mexico, hey, yeah, this is our land now. Too bad. But annexed. But annex can also be like a part of a building. So if you have like, let's say a big library, or maybe it's a small library, but this library has so many books, they need to build an extra part to the building. You might call it like the annex. So it would be just an extra part of the building. So an annex can be an extra part of a building or an addition to a country. Annex. Not a word you hear very often, but if you do like study history, you might hear that quite a bit when countries are taking over parts of other countries. They simply annex that. The next one. Oh, wait. Actually, I have another sentence for annex. The family built an annex or an addition on their house. We might call it an in laws apartment. And some American families will have in-law apartments. So if the parents of a married couple, maybe they're starting to get a little older, so sometimes they will build a little annex over the top of the garage, or they'll stick like an extra room on the side of their house. You could call it an in-law apartment. Probably wouldn't be called an annex though, if the in-laws are actually living there. The next one is campaign. This can be tricky because we can talk about the military or we can talk about like a politician, a president running for office. So the definition here is a series of actions intended to accomplish a goal. And here I have politics or military. Let's look at a couple example sentences. The US military went on a campaign through Mexico. So again, we have a series of actions. So not just a one-time thing. A military campaign is like a bunch of little steps in a war. But also, any politician, they usually have to campaign to get the job. So campaign can be used as a verb or it can be used as a noun. Many people came out to see the president during her reelection campaign. And I wanted to put that re there because that word lets us know that the president was elected once already. If they're reelected, that means they get to have that office again. If you are, let's take a second here. If you are testing for the US Citizenship Test, know that the US president has a term of 4 years. So when the president gets elected, we just had President Biden get elected. He will be president for 4 years. After those 4 years are up, he can run again for president. He can campaign again for president. And if he is reelected, he'll serve another 4 years. But a president can only be elected twice. They can only serve a maximum of 8 years. 2 4-year terms. 2 4-year terms. The next one here, let's pull this up. not actually a very pleasant one, but this is starvation. So it's the noun form. If you've ever heard of the verb starving, like, oh, I'm so hungry, I'm starving. Starvation appears in the article and it is a noun and it means suffering from extreme hunger. Unfortunately, if starvation goes on long enough, that it can result in death. Thankfully, starvation is rarely a cause of death in the United States nowadays. And I wanted to put that nowadays in there just because that's a term we often use for like the time that's happening now. So nowadays, a lot of people are wearing masks when they go into the grocery store. Nowadays, I didn't know if you would know that word, so I wanted to use that nowadays. Desertion is that next word, desertion. And it means to run away from a battle. In the Mexican American War article, they will talk about soldiers deserting the military. It means like, I'm done, I'm going home. And desertion is the noun form. The soldier was accused of desertion when he could not be found for several days. Yeah, I mean, I kind of don't blame the soldier if it's the war's not going very well and you're starving and you might die of starvation. Like, let's get out of there. Maybe we can find something better. But it is actually in the US, if you sign up to be in the military and then you like desert your post, you don't show up for several days. If we were at war, maybe probably not in peacetime, but desertion is actually punishable by death. So I don't think it's happened in a very long time, but that is one of the penalties for deserting an army. Desertion. Yeah, so don't do that. If you ever join the US military, make sure you stay until the battle is done. The next one is unstable. Unstable. So if you know any of these words, unstable, it'll be really helpful. Unsteady, wobbly, not reliable. So sometimes it's like physically unstable, and we have great. My software is not working. Come on, man. Well, the sentence I wanted to show you was the book fell off the unstable shelf. So if the shelf is a little bit wobbly, you might see it. There it goes. I didn't even push the button. There it goes. The book fell off the unstable shelf. I'm using unstable there as an adjective, which is how it's used most of the time, unstable. But it also can be the unstable marriage eventually ended in divorce. So that's another way to describe something that isn't actually working too well. If there's a lot of fighting in the divorce, it's unstable. It's not really working out that well. Yeah, unfortunately. Some people get divorced, but maybe sometimes it's better that way. Hey, if you have enjoyed this lesson, take a look at this other lesson that I did on Harriet Tubman. I think you'll really like it. See you next time.